Mallorca's beer mile. The party goes on just like before. No masks, no minimum distance. In the German and British party areas of the island, the police have had to intervene. The images cause outrage in Spain, where on some days over 900 people per day have died of COVID-19. Others may have forgotten this, but not the Spanish. It's noon on one of the last days of April. In downtown Madrid, everything goes quiet. Every day at 12 o'clock, people remember the victims of the coronavirus pandemic. On this day, the Ministry of Health registers almost 24,000 deaths so far. When we started filming for this report, Spain was in total lockdown, one of the strictest in the world. As a journalist, I'm allowed to move around freely in the city where I've lived for 3 years. A city I know is noisy, fast and brash. But now I no longer recognise Madrid. The locals on their balconies feel the same.
I've been locked in for almost 50 days. I'm hyperactive and I don't know how to do nothing.
When our son grows up, we'll tell him how it was, to be stuck at home for months, without seeing the family.
You start to miss the buzz, the vibrancy of the city. I miss it terribly.
At the start of the lockdown, the neighbours in the bourgeois district of Prosperidad lovingly decorated their street. They went out on their balconies at 8 every evening. What a relief that others are out there too.
Jesus, get your game board. Bingo is starting. 75, 7-5.
77, 7-7.
Nuria wins, and today it's Conchi's birthday from number 10. Almost every day there's a little surprise for somebody. The neighbours say it offers comfort.
In our culture, everyone is close. We always need to touch and to see each other every day. I'm so grateful to you all.
I'm sure that normally we would never have met half of all these people. Maybe the ones in that house, but the others, our paths would never have crossed.
I hope that we stay friends afterwards. It's just great that we get along so well. It's a miracle for me and for all the others.
Visiting the neighbours in Prosperidad is a ray of hope for us. For weeks, all we've been editing in our studio is pictures of catastrophe. Images from a hospital on the brink of collapse, with seriously ill patients lying in the corridors. Ice rinks serving as cooled makeshift mortuaries because there was no room elsewhere. Or the military disinfecting old people's homes. In some of them, soldiers find dead bodies that have been lying in their beds for days. No one wanted to touch them for fear of contagion. Ana Sotodosos is a geriatric nurse in a suburb of Madrid. She'd rather not say how many people died in her home, only that it was too many. She suspects that staff brought the virus in. In the beginning, they didn't even have personal protective equipment.
Incluso nos llegaban a decir.
The management told us that it would only alarm the old people if they saw us wearing masks, goggles and hairnets. Of course it alarms the elderly, but what happened next was much, much worse.
The more Anna tells me, the more I hope that someone like her will be able to look after me if I need it in later years. She works almost full-time and earns just €840 gross. Anna talks very fondly about the old people. When 2 or 3 of them suddenly started dying per day, she had panic attacks at night and went back to work in the morning filled with fear. Yet another one had died and her colleagues couldn't even hold their hand.
A lot of colleagues say that they can't even cry about it yet. They just carry their fears around with them. I weep often when I suddenly remember what one of these elderly people said or did. Yes, we talk about it a lot.
All these people had to die alone, Anna says. We couldn't be with them and neither could their families. David Lopez lost his grandmother in early April. She told him she had a bit of a cold. 2 days later, she was dead. She loved to plait my beard, David says. She was my best friend. He knows nothing about her last few hours, only that there was no ventilator for the 96-year-old. The hospital wouldn't let anyone have access to her.
We talked about it in the family, and it's really harrowing for us. You have someone you love and you don't know how they died, whether she missed her family, whether she could have done with a little warmth, someone by her side, but it wasn't allowed.
Antonia Garcia was the matriarch of the family. A passionate football fan, her grandchildren went to the stadium with her. In normal times, there would have been a wake for her and a funeral with all the family. In the end, due to the risk of infection, only 3 relatives were allowed at her burial. David was one of them.
We weren't allowed to decide anything. The funeral was so sterile. 3 people who had to keep their distance from one another. Afterwards, all you can do is to write the others a WhatsApp message about how it was. At such and such a time, they pushed the coffin into the flames. We couldn't stand together, etc. For me, it was one awful experience after another.
A few days later, still during the lockdown, we head northwest to Galicia. In a monster of a hire car, but we needed one this big. Only 1 passenger per row is allowed. There are signs of the state of emergency and road checks everywhere. The only people allowed to pass are ones who can prove they have to work. We are filming for German television.
How many people?
3 rows of seats, 3 people. On the journey, we pass through Pinyó, a village in the middle of a huge forest. The whole village lives from the timber trade. 1,000 inhabitants, 9 coffin builders. One of the factories belongs to José Luis González and his son. In recent years, business was sluggish, but now they can hardly keep up with production.
We sold these coffins before the crisis. You have a window on the lid, so you can see the deceased one last time. And the interior is cushioned and lined with satin. Now we have another model. The window is no longer needed, and for the lining, we use biodegradable paper. No wakes are allowed at the moment. The deceased have to be cremated immediately. These coffins go straight to the crematorium.
Father and son struggled against competition from China for years. Undertakers preferred to buy their coffins cheap from Asia. But once the epidemic broke out, hardly any imports came into the country, and instead of producing 200, they're suddenly producing 400 coffins per month. The family business is managing it with the 3 employees who have always worked here.
We've been working overtime to meet the demand. And we've adapted the production to more basic models, partly for speed. We couldn't have managed it with the old models.
Tender, personalised details and special requests were possible before. At the moment, it's not in keeping with the times. An hour's drive away, I've arranged to meet up with some old acquaintances. A married couple I know from an earlier film. José Mozoso and Celia Bouza did their best to stay active during the lockdown. She did yoga while he rediscovered his grown-up son's old sports equipment. I'm not allowed into the flat. Celia used to be a nurse and knows all about the dangers of infection. But not everyone takes the rules so seriously. They've been observing this from their window.
Sometimes you see the same dog outside the whole morning and then again in the afternoon, and it's always someone different taking him for a walk. They're having a joke.
The next morning, José and Celia are allowed to take their first walk. From now, Spaniards are allowed to go out for 1 hour per day. For almost 2 months, they were only allowed to go out for grocery shopping. In the meantime, it's spring and everything is a little unusual. You have to move out of Jogger's Way all the time, and José hasn't quite got the hang of the mask.
No se la pone bien, ¿no?
No.
Oh, what do I know?
Ahí.
The two try to pick up a good pace, but they can't really go further than round in a circle. They're only allowed to move 1 kilometre away from their flat. José is annoyed. There are rules everywhere.
I can only talk to my children and grandchildren by video at the moment. That's how it is right now. I'd love to see them, to cuddle them so much.
The Camino St. James Way goes right through the heart of Galicia. From April to November, hundreds of thousands of pilgrims crowd through these narrow streets. Now, early May would normally be peak season, but the hostels have all written it off.
For our business, it means a year of losses. Totally. The pilgrimage is not happening this year.
Rafael Martins and his girlfriend Alba Sardinero wanted to take over this small hostel and 2 others from Alba's parents. They worked on the guest rooms all winter, spending 25,000 euros on the renovation. Now their revenues are 0. They need a plan B.
I could go back to the construction site, and Alba could go back to work as an occupational therapist. Then we can live for a while from our old jobs.
But Alba and Rafael are not giving up their dream of St. James Way yet. They've come too far for that.
This here is our life, my parents' life and ours, so we're not throwing in the towel yet. It's so sad. We're the only ones who can see how pretty it is here right now. Well, at least you guys have come to visit us.
2 months have passed. It's early July. We're flying to the Canary Islands to Lanzarote. Holidaymakers have been allowed back into Spain since just a few days. There are not many around. They're sharing the beaches with locals.
It's a dream. There's no one else here. As you see, if you like, you can have 20 meters distance to the next bathers. It's never been this nice here before.
If you ask other holidaymakers, how would you have imagined this last year with a few less people, it wouldn't have been so bad. So it's not so unpleasant.
We've already said we're bound to remember this very different holiday in years to come. It's a special moment.
Normally, 1.5 million tourists come to Lanzarote every year. Now, at the start of the summer season, just a handful of hotels are open. Ana Santiago cleans hotel rooms and has been unemployed since mid-March. In the car, we're now allowed to sit next to one another.
The town is totally dead. We live from tourism here, and now everything is closed. Without the coronavirus, the place would normally be packed right now.
Anna prefers not to show us the hotel where she works. It'll be open again in early August, and she has to be ready for work. She doesn't want any trouble. On the whole, she doesn't feel very comfortable. The Canaries are trying to attract visitors with their low number of coronavirus cases. But the question is whether the visitors might bring the virus to the island.
Do you think I can run around like this the whole time? The work is hard enough as it is. Then 8 hours a day in this thing? You can forget it. I'll suffocate.
Along with the beach guests, nature tourists also come to Lanzarote. Every year, the volcanic island attracts tens of thousands of hikers, cyclists or extreme athletes. Domingo Concepción is a biologist. He's not opposed to tourism, but he thinks that it will do nature good to have a break from its keen visitors. The red mountain at the heart of the island looks totally unspoiled. Usually there are around 200 people per day climbing up here, and it's strewn with trails. Now just a few lines are visible.
The wind shifts the fine material and repairs the cracks. It won't heal it completely, but there were a lot more tracks left in the mountain before the coronavirus than there are now. Look, please film that. That's how fast it happens. Just 2 people and they've already left a new trail behind them.
For the first time, Domingo is observing how fast nature is reclaiming its space. The birds fascinate him in particular. Quad drivers usually race through this terrain, and in the village next door, there's always building work going on. But the animals came back in the break imposed by the coronavirus.
These traces have to be from today, or the wind would have swept them away. That is unusual, that you see traces of desert birds so near to human settlements, hardly 100 meters away.
From Lanzarote, there's a ferry to La Graciosa, a tiny island with just under 700 inhabitants. Holidaymakers like to drop in for a short trip. For a long time, La Graciosa was just a white spot on the map of Spain. Miguel Páez is one of the most active inhabitants of the island. For years, he's fought for La Graciosa to be recognised in its own right. Since 2018, it's now officially the 8th inhabited Canary island, and now a little famous because the island has so far remained coronavirus-free.
We always say, the island has protected us. In February, we were going to celebrate our new status as the 8th Canary Island with a big event. It would have brought large crowds of people here, but we had to cancel it because the calima, the sand winds from Africa, were so strong. Then the people also believe that the salty water disinfects and kills the virus.
In his shop, Miguel also sells a little of the island's history. His family is one of the 4 or 5 who came to La Graciosa 140 years ago. Fishermen from Lanzarote. Until around 20, 30 years ago, they had hardly any outside contact.
They built huts with no water or light. They had an incredible will to survive here, although the island really has its limits. They wanted this place to become their home.
La Graciosa is not even 30 kilometres large. It's a biosphere reserve, a conservation area for birds and the sea. The island has been spared a huge onslaught of visitors. Although almost everyone lives from tourism, the force break due to the coronavirus was pleasant, almost like it was back in the day when Miguel was still a little boy.
In the months of the lockdown, there was nobody on the island, only us gracioseros. We had the island all to ourselves. And to be honest, we really enjoyed it.
In Madrid, too, the new normal has arrived in the city worst hit by the virus. People are allowed to move around freely again, but masks are mandatory almost everywhere. Many businesses have not survived the last 3 months. According to EU Commission estimates, the economy will shrink by almost 11%. And there's a new word, colas de hambre, hunger queues. In Madrid alone, around 100,000 people cannot manage without food donations. Aura Machado has had no work for 2 months. When the lockdown came, her boss sent her home. Now she's asked the priest of her parish for help for the first time in her life.
It's really not easy for me. Others are in much greater need than me, but I reckon I can go there because I'm a single parent, and I'm also taking care of my mother.
Aura came here from Venezuela a few years ago. Here in Spain, she was earning a little over €1,000 a month. It was enough to live on, but not to put anything aside. Aura had to queue up for 2 or 3 hours. Everyone here has the same issues. They've been furloughed, are on social security, or have bills to pay. Father Gonzalo has been distributing food to the needy for years. But now there are twice as many people as usual. Most of them are migrants, low earners, or those working illegally.
These people don't even have a bank account. They come from Latin America, refugees from Venezuela, for example. They don't have papers, they have nothing. Someone just came to me and I gave him 100 euros so he can at least find a place to sleep next week. There's really nothing. Nothing.
Nada. Cero.
No kisses, no hugs. The corona warning sounds pretty harsh. But the people are so friendly here that I'm not ashamed anymore, says Aura. This food is enough for 2 weeks, and she can return as often as she needs to. Father Gonzalo has promised her that. The bingo club in the district of Prosperidad has now stopped, and the neighbours prefer to meet among themselves. Today they've invited me to a picnic in the park. The group is not quite complete. Raúl and Clara are staying at home.
We have risk patients in the family, and they want to finally be able to see our little one, to give him a hug. So we are all a little more careful with our contacts.
They have decided that they want to meet up more often.
I didn't even know how tall my neighbours are. Taller or shorter than me. I've only ever seen you from the balcony. I didn't know you close up.
The masks can be taken off for eating and drinking. Then the social distancing tends to be forgotten. They've got quite a lot of news to tell each other, with 3 months to catch up on all the information they can get when at home all day.
We have squatters round the back. They're growing grass, honestly. My daughter wants to go and buy some from them. In our building, they smoke grass the whole day. And in the stairway...
They asked me how we managed to keep the infection rates so low in Germany. Their shock is deep that Spain was hit so badly. In the meantime, smaller coronavirus outbreaks have flared up again. Do you think there will be a real normality again? Not just this new normal?
No, you can't quite shake off this fear.
There is one good thing about the coronavirus, the neighbours from Prosperidad say. In normal circumstances, they would never have become friends. Now, they will remain so. Even if Madrid still needs a long time to recover, it may never be the same again.